Stu, it's a hard one to say. Like England are in a really the way that the tournament pans out for them, they're in a really fortunate uh, draw. So they had Italy first, who's probably the weakest team. Wales next, that are appearing to be the second weakest. They'll go to Scotland next, and then Scotland are. I think Scotland are a very good team. They're just so inconsistent. They're inconsistent again on the weekend. They then get Ireland at home before they get France away. Now, so that lets them sort of get 3 games where they're putting a new attack coach and a new defence coach with their systems going. Now, the defensive system that Felix Jones is putting in is still bedding in. Now, that's not a criticism of Felix or the system. That's going to take time. That's the reality. Same with their attack. I think the big test on where England is going to be is Twickenham, because Ireland are going to go there. If it's a wet day, that will certainly take this great attacking shape that Ireland have that really troubled France and really, took Italy apart with 6 players out. Now, 7 players out. Those 7 players hopefully will be back for that game. Getting full strength Ireland without a system, I can't see that defensive system that Felix is putting in being ready to cope with that. There are still huge spaces on the side of that English defensive system that Wales were not good enough to exploit. There was so much ruck, pass to a forward runner, ruck, pass to it was one-off rugby. As I said, it was like rugby league in the 1960s. It was just tackle, pass, tackle, pass, tackle, pass. They don't have an attack. Wales currently don't have an attacking system to exploit that. Ireland do. Now, but I would agree with you that we don't really know. You don't really know till the final whistle of the last game. But what they've done in Marseille in particular tells me that this Ireland side, post-World Cup 2023, are emotionally, mentally and structurally far better organised and performing at a higher level than the other teams. The thing that shocked us all is how low France are and probably how good Scotland are in patches, but they just can't hold it together for 80 minutes. And we saw that again the other day. Scotland should have won that game by a considerable margin. Instead, they let it slip through their fingers. So I don't think it's not bragging, it's not being brash. You're just looking at the facts right now. I think, and without dismissing the Welsh, because Warren Gatland says he's going to make his team hard to beat, and they are. You look at them; they've hung in there in both those games. They're going to hang in there and be really difficult at the Aviva in the next game. But if you just sit back and you're dispassionate and you look at it all, this Irish team is currently, after 2 rounds, certainly the leading team of this year's Six Nations.
Alan, if England play like they did against South Africa in that semi-final, I know South Africa weren't on it, and if Ireland aren't quite on it, how close is the gap?
I think from a technical point of view and a playing style point of view, obviously Ireland are more advanced than the other teams.
Do you mean streaks ahead or just a bit ahead?
A good bit ahead from an attack point of view. I think they've, if they're allowed play. But the problem you have here, Stuart, is rugby's a physical game. England are a perfect example of a team who were playing really poorly going into a World Cup. A lot of negative rugby, kicking the ball a lot, struggling to find any sort of shape or structure. They really simplified things. Then when they got to the World Cup, they were just relentless against Argentina with their kicking, their pressure, their defence, their maul, their scrum, all the simple things that you can do when you're a physical side. And they won convincingly against Argentina in the first game. Everybody thought Argentina would win that game. They continued on, with poor kind of low-key performances. But then you get to a semi-final and they muscled up and they kicked and put a lot of pressure on the kick chase and they frustrated the life out of South Africa. And on the balance of the game, you probably say they should have and could have won that game and they could have been in a final. Are they capable of doing the same thing to Ireland? Absolutely, because you're always going to get a physical approach and a physical aggressive, dominant kind of a confrontational approach from England. And historically, they've been always been bigger and able to muscle up against against better teams who are more skillful. So ultimately, rugby comes down to that sometimes, which is a little bit unfair. So they're capable of doing that, and under no circumstance can Ireland underestimate Wales or England or Scotland. I don't think they will, but I just think for us on the outside, they're a better team. They're a very balanced team. Ireland themselves are well able to match physical, more bigger sides against themselves. But you wouldn't be getting carried away thinking Ireland is going to turn up in Twickenham and win there. No way. That's not going to happen. I think any sort of a win for them in Twickenham will be really sufficient. And I think, but will Ireland, the question I always get asked, will Ireland change the way they play? No, they won't, because I think they're gone so far and they're so cohesive in their attack. I think in the other side of things, they should, and maybe against New Zealand, that quarter-final, maybe we needed to be a bit more pragmatic and kick a little bit more and actually get into the opposition half and with some good tactical territorial kicks. But I wouldn't be overly concerned, but you're not going to just turn up against any of the three teams and expect to have a waltz in the park. When you're the underdog, and Warren Gatlin's team will be abrasive and aggressive, and Ireland are going to have to be patient in all these three games. But, if you ask us, are they good enough to win, and should they win the three games? The answer is yes.